Hey everybody and welcome back to the Board Game Specialist. I am Melanie.
And I'm Carla.
And this week we're doing episode 38, which is all on area control. Now this is a theme that's funny because I think both of us are like, no, we don't like area control. Yet we've come across a bunch of area control game that we just absolutely love.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. And it's not something I would have thought I liked. Like even just all the games that I listed, like there's tons, and my number one actually shocked me. It was like when I did it on Pub Meeple. I knew I liked this game, but I can't believe this is my number one.
It's funny. Well, I gotta say, Risk is not on my list, and Risk is the reason why I thought I didn't like area control.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not a Risk fan either. So that's definitely not on my list.
Perfect. So before we get into the list, Carla, tell us, what have you been playing lately?
So I've been playing one of my small box games, Sunset Over Water. Now this is a beautiful little game. It's one of the pencil first games with the beautiful Beth Sobel art. And all it is a grid of cards, and there are all these landscapes like waterfalls and sunsets and things like that. And they have little symbols on them. So they might have a waterfall and the sun, or a waterfall and a mountain, or three things on it, or just one. And so you are hikers, and you start in the middle of this, I think it's a 5x5 grid. Everyone starts in the middle, and you have this hand of cards, and you shuffle it up, and you grab three, and you get to choose one, and it will decide what time you wake up to get your pictures, because you're taking pictures, and which way you can move, and how many spots, and then how many pictures you can take along the way. So you have to try and decide, okay, what you really want, and usually, like the earlier times, you get to move, I think it's less, but when you sleep in, you actually get to move more. So you kind of have to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? Because you don't know what the other person is choosing. So then you both flip your card over, and who's ever earliest gets to go first. So if they take a picture and it's in your path, you can't even move that way. You can't go into an empty spot, and you can't obviously take a picture that they've already taken. And so the whole reason of taking these pictures is that you're trying to collect these symbols on the bottom to fulfill these objective cards that have like a certain amount of like a recipe fulfillment kind of thing. And you also have a thing at the beginning of the game which will say like you love to take pictures of mountains, and or you love to take pictures of sunsets. And so you're trying to collect a bunch of those as well, because if you can have a bunch of them, they're at least worth a point at the end of the game. It's a really light game, but it's one of those, over a cup of coffee or tea, and you just can chill and chat while you're playing and just get to look at the beautiful art. And it's really pretty. Another one we pulled out Boonlake. So this is an Alexander Pfister kind of a heavier game, but I feel like it's a cross between his Great Western Trail and Maracaibo in some ways. Like there's a lot of card play like there's in Maracaibo, but you're still kind of moving along this trail. You're not handing in like cows or anything, but you are and also there's a bit of Terra Mystica in there as well, because you're placing different settlements and houses, and you can upgrade them into better things. It's kind of a mishmash of his games combined with some other mechanics, but it's quite neat, and it's a interesting game. I'm still not even sure if I really love it. I've only played it maybe 3 or 4 times, so have to still have a few more plays before I decide. At this point, I don't like it as much as Great Western Trail or Maracaibo, but it's still neat. And I tried a new deduction game on Board Game Arena. It's called Break the Code. Now, just because I've been loving the deduction games lately, I thought, okay, I'm going to try this one. This is kind of a mathy one where you have this code of 4 numbers, and you're trying to guess everyone else's code unless it's just a 2-player, or sorry, you're trying to guess a main code, but I've only played with 2 players, so you try to guess each other's code. And you have this list of questions on top, and so you click on one and you can ask, and so there's 2 colors of sets of numbers. They're either black or white, and all the fives are always green, I believe. And so you're trying to figure out, okay, like how many numbers do you have consecutively or whatever, so you can kind of figure that out. And then you can also see what numbers you have in yours, so you know, okay, well, it can't be this one, so they must have like these 2 or 3 numbers, and you can kind of narrow it down. But you'll ask a question, and then it'll come back to you, and then you can either guess the code or ask another question that is listed on top. You don't get to choose you don't get to make up the question. You choose from what's above. So it's neat, but I'm not very good at it. But I want to get better at it because it's just so interesting. Because it's just trying to figure out, okay, well, it can't be this, can't be that. It has to be over here, but is it white or is it black? It's not green because only the fives are green. And I think I've ended both games I've played in ties. Neither of us got it. So we're both equally not very good at it, but it's interesting. Another one I played was Guild of Merchants Explorers. And this one it feels almost like a roll and write, but it's not a roll and write because you're using these little, you're building paths each round with these cubes. And then if you build a village like within the path, then you get to keep those villages from round to round. But if you don't, then you pull everything off and you kind of start over each round. And you're just trying to fill objectives, but you're trying to like build villages and discover these discovery towers, trying to find like these ruins because they give you like little bonuses or end game collection points at the end. It doesn't sound like much, and even when I used to watch like videos on it, it was like, I don't know, but everyone who was playing it said it's just so good. You can't even explain how it is. It's just one you kind of have to try. And there's like 4 maps that come with the game, so it's really neat. And it's quite addicting. It has like a cool solo mode as well, and like a little campaign if you want to do all the maps, because there's different cards for each map, so you could play I think 3 or 4 times each map and you still wouldn't have the same game. It's quite neat. And then another one of my pretty little games was Canopy that I played. I played with my daughter. It's just a 2-player game. You can play it with more players as well if you have another deck or another set of the game, but I think it's just meant for 2, and you're just building up your rainforest and trying to build up these trees, and you'll get plants and animals, and it's just cards. All it is cards. And it's neat how you draft these cards because there's 3 piles or 3 stacks, I guess. And each stack it starts with a 1, and then the next stack starts with 2, and the third starts with 3. And so I would look at the first card, the first stack, and if I wanted that card, I'd take it and then replace it. But if I didn't want it, I'd add a card to that one, put it face down, and then check out the next stack, and so on. So you can always, it's kind of a push your luck because you're like, well, I don't really like what's in this one. I'm just going to guess, or I'm going to go to the next one. If I don't like this, then your last chance is the third pile. But if you don't like that, you can just pull one off the deck. But, I mean, you're going to get some bad cards in there as well. Like there's droughts and fires that will make you take cards out of your tableau, which sometimes is a good thing because some of the set collection cards of the animals or the plants, once you get past a certain amount, you go back into the negatives. So you do want to remove some of them. So it's quite interesting, and it's just a little card game that takes maybe half an hour because it's played in 3 phases. But it's so beautiful looking at all these animals and tropical forest plants. And yeah, that's the few I've been playing lately. What about you, Mel?
I played a couple. So me and Lily played Canvas, which is one that she really enjoys. And with this one, what's neat is all the cards are see-through cards that have a little bit of artwork here and there. And then along the bottom, there'll be a few color kind of represented, and they'll have a pattern on them as well, or like an icon on the color palettes along the bottom as well. And when you're playing the game, each time you play the game, you'll pull out different goals that you're trying to accomplish, and that will be showing, like you'll get to score a ribbon if you have a square and a triangle next to each other, or you'll score a ribbon if you get all the colors represented, or different things like that. So every time you play, there's a different goal that you got to do. And you're collecting these cards, and you're going to stack 3 of them together in different combination, trying to match up these goals. And then once you get 3 that kind of gives you the points you're hoping for, you put them into the sleeve that creates a painting. And then you score the painting. And you do that for 3 paintings, and whoever tallies the most points for their scores is the winner. So this is one that we play regularly, especially with Lily, because she does enjoy this one quite a bit. I've also played, a few that I've talked about just last week, so I'm not going to worry about mentioning those. But we've played Istanbul, the dice game. So that was my first time playing that one. Now, I've never played Istanbul, the original board game, so I don't know how it compares. But with the dice game, you roll the dice. It'll kind of give you different symbols on there. You can spend the dice to collect these tiles. Now, some of the tiles will give you symbols that you can utilize as well, or it could give you extra dice and so on. And you're kind of collecting these things. And, geez, I forget what was the thing that gave you points at the end. I'm guessing there's other things you're trying to get for points. But it was an interesting one. I think it played very quick, and I was it took me by surprise that, oh, okay, we're done. Okay, good. So, but it was neat, so definitely want to play that one again. And then last night with the boys, we ended up playing Cover Your Assets. And this one is just a simple card game where you have 5 cards in your hand, and you're trying to put pairs together and set them down, and then you stagger them. So the first pair goes up and down, the second one is left and right, and so on, and you stagger them. And on your turn, you can either play a pair from your hand, you can take a card from the discard pile to make a pair with one from your hand and play that on your pile, or you can steal a card from another player. And what's like the asset that is on the top, and there's different value to them, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 or more. There's different value to them, and you're trying to steal other people's piles. So if you're like, they just played a coin collection that's worth $10,000, and then they have that on the top of their asset pile, then I could play a coin collection card and say, well, I challenged this one, and then they get the option to play one from their hand saying, no, you can't take it, I'm keeping it, and then I can play another one. Now, if I have a silver or a gold, those are considered wild. So it's like, yeah, I do want it, and play another card. And then whoever has kind of like the final say in that keeps the pile that they're trying to steal, plus all the cards that got played to take control of that pile. So there's a lot of back and forth. Now, Patrick loved it, and he completely destroyed us at this game. Jerome did not enjoy the take that aspect of this game, so there's that to consider. But it was a neat one. It's one that I had played once before, and I did like the kind of simplicity of it, and it was just like a fun, simple card game to play, so I did enjoy it. But if you are not a big fan of the take that, then you probably would or could have an issue with this. And that's pretty much all that I've played. Well, it was Thanksgiving, so there's, all those celebrations and supper planning and all that sort of stuff kind of getting in the way of playing board games. But, so that's what I got to play. Now, I guess we can get into our top 9 area control. Now, before we get into our number 9, any honorable mention?
I have a couple. 2 of them are just because I've only played them once. I couldn't put them on my list because I would need another play of them. One I played at FallCon was Hansa Teutonica, and then the other one was El Grande. I have started a game on BGA, but it's very slow going. I think we've only had 2 turns yet. But the real true honorable mention for me is Godfather. So this one is like an Eric Lang game, and you are playing as gangsters, and you are trying to control certain areas of New York, and trying to get guns and drugs and money, and just trying to have the most of money at the end of the game. And it just kind of has some neat mechanics because it's a worker placement, so you are placing some workers, but some of the things you can do is like throw people in the river if they get too much on your turf. I think I can't remember now. It was a few months ago that the last time we played, but it is interesting. Those are the type of games that like that's probably the edge of area control where I kind of cross the line. Like I like this one I will play, but anything more than that I'm probably gonna stay away from. But that's my honorable mention. What about you? Do you have any?
I have one. That would have been my number 10. So just missed the top 9, and that's Ank Gods of Egypt. Now, this one was really neat, but I've only played it the one time. I don't own it, right? And it's part of the trilogy Bloodrage, Rising Sun, which I haven't played Rising Sun, and then Ank God of Egypt. And it's interesting, like the Egyptian theme is really neat, and it's really like you're sending these kind of gods, and it's all miniatures that you're playing with, and then the more, like each area will score at the end of the rounds depending on how much control you have. But what was interesting too is you could kind of level up your power of your, but you kind of decide which power or ability you wanted, and you could change that around. And then as you progress in the game, you kind of unlock stronger powers that you can kind of get access to. So as you play, depending on the decision you're making and what you're upgrading and so on, like you can end up with very different powers than everybody else. It was really neat. It was kind of neat how you would try to push people out of your area so that you had the most control in the one area, so you got to score it. And I mean, at first you kind of like in your own corner, but by the final round of the game, like you're kind of all over the map. And it was a really neat game, but as I mentioned, it's one that I've only played the one time.
Awesome. All right. So should we get on with our top 9 here?
Yes. What is
my number 9 is my number 9 is Pandoria, made in 2018 by Jeffrey D. Allers and Bernd Eisenstein. I think, unless I wrote it wrong. But that's the 2 designers of this game, and it's quite an interesting game. It's a tile laying game, but you start with these double hex tiles, and you will draw them each round, and you'll place them on this board. And what you're trying to do is you place them, and then you get to place one of your workers. And you have, I can't remember how many, maybe 6 workers, and then you have a leader, which is a taller one. And you can't place that leader until all your other workers are out, unless you have one certain player power, because there are different player powers you can play with, or you can just all be the same. And so you'll place this tile out, and then you can place a worker. And if on the tiles, you're either going to have crowns, which are like victory points. You're going to have wood, like a wood forest. You're going to have this crystal mines. Now I'm blanking what else. I think there's 5 different things, but you're going to place them out and try and group them together, but also try and enclose it. And you want to be the one to enclose it, because you will get the most points out of it, depending how many you have enclosed and how many workers you've got surrounding it, because then it'll double or triple it. And if you happen to have a leader there, they act as 2 times whatever you get. And you want to collect these things, these crystals and wood and money. I think gold is one as well. And so that you can build up these different cards that will give you better abilities to get like more things depending on what you collect. But the neat thing about it is the area control part of it is you can also kick somebody out. So somebody could be like surrounding, a whole mine of all these crystals, and crystals will let you cast spells that give you like little bonuses. So it's can be a little bit of cutthroat in this one, because you can have this whole plan and you've got like 3 or 4 people around it. Well, then somebody else ends it. And if you're stuck in the middle of it, then you get booted out automatically. So it's quite thinky, because you gotta, you think you've got this big plan. Oh, I'm going to build this big wood mine because I want to build this building and these monuments at the end, which are worth big points. And then somebody puts one tile and messes everything up that you had planned. So it's quite a tactical game because you can't have a master plan at the beginning. You have to kind of work with as you go. But it's still interesting and it still intrigues me. There's also a roll and write version of this game that is quite neat and it's quite meaty as well. But it's something to check out. It's like older, like 2018. Well, I guess only 4 years. It's not that old, but it's still quite neat and not talked about that much. But that's my number 9, Pandoria.
Nice. My number 9 is Kero, which is a game that I purchased kind of on a whim last minute at Godfest in Edmonton. And there was a flea market, and then we're kind of all done. There's a few games left down. People are kind of not wanting to pack them back up, and I was like, yeah, okay, maybe I'll get it. And then once I opened it, the components just blew me away. It was like the little tanker trucks that are actually sand timers. And now I was so impressed. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this one is published in 2018. It was published by Hurricane Games, and the designer is Prospero Hall, so I'm not sure what that means. But with this one, you're going out, and then kind of every time you go out to collect different cards or to try to put some influence on the different locations so that you can gain those tiles, you have to spend kerosene. So you're spending your fuel, so you have to put your tanker truck standing up, and it spends your fuel. So you're trying to roll the dice as fast as you can to get the combination of what you need to collect the cards, which might give you different or extra, like an extra symbol that you can use all the time, or kind of send an influence token on one of the locations so that you can gain, because those are what's going to be worth points at the end. But you want to collect the cards so that you have more kind of influence on your dice and more symbols that you can utilize, so it's easier to send the influence token on the tiles, but you want to concentrate on the tiles as well, because that is what the points are coming from. I played this with Patrick the first time, and I was so impressed with it. Components are amazing. The gameplay was neat. And then once you kind of start running out of fuel, you can spend a jerry can to refill. And you put your tanker truck and you hold it on its nose while the other player rolls the dice. And you're trying to roll flames, because when you roll a flame, that freezes your dice. But in this case, you roll until all of the dice are flames, and then that's it. You've fueled up and you got to stop. So you're trying to do that as fast as you can so the other player doesn't get to fuel as much as they could. It was just such a neat game. I really enjoyed that one. So that's my number 9, Kero.
Yeah, that one sounds really neat. I've kind of looked at that one a couple times, but I've never come across it used. So that was a good find for you. All right, well, my number 8 is Blue Lagoon, made in 2018 by Rainer Knizia. So this one is, he's made a few games that have this like route building. There's been a couple, but this is the only one of them that I've played. And this is quite neat because you were placing little huts, and now I can't think of what the other thing is you're placing. Oh, you're placing these the swimmers, I think it is, and then the land people, and then you can also place huts on a spot if you've collected so many. But what you're trying to do is collect some of these fruits or like coconuts and things, and it's basically kind of a set collection thing, but you're also trying to control these little islands as well. So you want to have the most on these islands, but you have to connect to get to them. You can't just plop them all over the place. And so there's 2 rounds to this. So after the first round, you've filled your board, everybody's played all their pieces out. Then if you have huts there, you get to keep those on, but you pull everything back off and you take all your fruits and like coconuts and things, and then you get to score them. You score the majority for each island, and then you start again. But the thing is, you can also start from now your huts. So it's quite a quick, easy game. Like it's 2 phases. I bet you could play it in a half an hour. I'm terrible at this game. I don't know why I can't grasp this game, but everyone I've played with, from my kids to I basically try to show this to non-gamers because I'm like, okay, I got to see, like, do they pick this one up? And they do. I don't know why I can't pick it up. I don't know if it's the route building or what it is. Like, it's not hard. It's a very simple concept, but it's quite intriguing. I picked this game up for like $20 at like one of our old record stores that had it on there. So I'm like, okay, I gotta try this, and played it quite a few times. But yeah, I'm always terrible at it. But it's still such a neat concept of, you know, building these routes and then leaving some huts there, and then trying to get the control of as many as you can. I think my problem is I try to get everywhere, and you can't do that in an area control. And that's why I maybe don't like it and I'm not that good at it, because you have to pick and choose some. You can't try to do a little bit of everything. It does not work in an area control game, but I still try, and that's my number 8, Blue Lagoon.
Nice. I played that one once years and years ago, and it was a really neat game. But it's been so long, and it was right when I first got into the hobby, so I don't remember it very well. All right, my number 8 is Imhotep. It was published in 2016. It was created by Phil Walker Harding, and it's published by Cosmos Games. This one is, well, it's another Egyptian-themed game, and it's a really neat one. So depending on the number of play, you get a certain set of cards, and each round you're going to flip a card over, and it's going to show different boats that you're going to be playing with. And they're like little canoe-shaped boats, and it'll hold 1, 2, 3, 4 different spaces that you can put a cube on. So you'll put these boats out, and then each player has a different color of stones that they'll be playing, which is the wooden cubes you play with. Now, these wooden cubes, though, are huge in comparison. Like, if you think of a cube and you think, like, Pandemic, these are at least 4 times that size. Like, they're a nice, chunky cube that you're playing with. And then on your turn, you'll put a cube onto a boat, and you get to decide what position on the boat you want to put it on and which boat you'd like to put it on. Now, these boats also have an indication, like maybe it'll hold up to 3, but there's an indication that after there's 2 stones, you could shift the boat if you wanted to. So part of the game is kind of putting your cubes on the boat, and then when there's enough cubes, you can send this boat to a different location. Now, you can send it to the market where you can collect cards that's going to give you either special ability or scoring opportunity at the end of the game. You can send it to build the chambers. And then with this one is you're just laying and it's neat because you got to lay it, like, you got to pull them out of the boat in the order that they are. So whoever's in the front of the boat goes out first, and then the second. And this one, you kind of build rows of this burial chamber, basically. And with that one, the burial chamber is at the very end of the game. The cluster that is created, you get to score. So if you kind of position yourself where you can create like a cluster of 3 or 4 or 5, then you're going to score more. Now, last time I played, Lyle kept blocking my clusters, so I would have a bunch of clusters of like 1 and 2. Well, you had like a cluster of 10. Like, the scoring there was not even. You can go to the temple where you just kind of putting the cubes in a row, and then once the row is done, you kind of put it on top, and then you score however many you can see from the top. So you're trying to get your color stone more represented than the others. You can go to the obelisk where you just build a tower of these the rocks or the stones you have, and then whoever has the highest tower kind of gets to score the most, and the second position would score less, and so on. Or you can go to the pyramid and you add tiles to the pyramid. So the base is going to be a 3x3, then a 2x2, like a 2x2, then a 1, and then anything afterwards just adds on the 1. But depending on the position of where you're putting your stone in the pyramid, that's going to score a different point as well. So sometimes you're going to send, like, oh, if they go on the pyramid, they're going to score a 4 and a 3. So I'm going to go ahead and just send them to the obelisk because they're already ahead of me there. And then it's kind of like, oh, why did you do that? You're just wasting my stones. I was like, I had a different plans for this. And so there's a bit of take that element to this as well. And you really got to do that because otherwise, like, you can, some people can score a lot on this one. But it's such a neat game. I've really enjoyed playing this one. And then, yeah, the components are neat. The gameplay is super cool. So it's one that I've enjoyed playing. So that's my number 8, Imhotep.
Awesome. I still haven't got a chance to play this one. I have to try it sometime. My number 7 is Mission Red Planet, originally made in 2005, but then remade again in 2015. I've only played the 2015 edition. And this is made by the designers, the two Brunos, Bruno Cathala and Bruno Fedudi. This one is such a neat game. You all start with this hand of cards, and it's 9, I guess, like, I don't know, astronauts or explorers. And you all choose one simultaneously, and you place it face down, then you flip them up. And whoever has, I think it starts, I don't know if it starts high or starts low, but let's say it starts low. Whoever has the number 1 gets to go first. And each card has a different ability with what you're going to do. You get to place some of your people in these spaceships. And so these spaceships, there's like, I think depending on player count, it's a lot more fun with quite a few people, because the more you have, the more chaos that's going on. And so what you're doing is placing some of your little workers in these spaceships. And you're trying to get it to launch, because when it launches, it goes to these different planets that are on the board. And depending on like what planet it goes to, there's little things that could happen on those planets. But you're trying to basically control as many of these planets as you can. But some of the cards will let you move somebody, like once you're on a planet, to another planet, or move somebody else's, or do all kinds of things. Like you can even play the game where you are just trying, there's one like a death planet or something that everyone who dies goes to. And so, I mean, typically you wouldn't want to do that. But then the neat thing is, around the board, there's some of these cards. Now, I can't remember what they're called, but you can only look at them if you use a certain ability. And some of them want, like, people on the death planet. I don't know why I'm calling it that, because I can't think of what the name is, but so you could have, if you've seen that card early, you could have a whole strategy of just killing off your people and putting them all there, because you could get tons of points for them. But it's all different kinds of things, and depending on which cards you pick for the game to play under the planets, which are face down, it can change it up dramatically. But it's just kind of neat, because it's like very tactical. You have to play by the seat of your pants. Somebody's moving you here. Well, you wanted to go there, and you wanted so many of your people here, and it's just real chaotic, but it's fun. I almost feel like it's a little bit more of a party game, because it's just, silly fun. The first time I played it was at a marathon, like an all-night marathon, and I think we played it at like 4 a.m, and I think I ended up with 4 points or something at the end of the game, and I'm like, I hate this game. This is stupid. And so we played it again like a few weeks later at a normal time, and I did quite well. And I'm like, oh, this isn't that bad. I don't know what I was doing, or maybe I just can't play games at 4 a.m. But I think you don't typically end up with 4 points. That's just a true idiot. Which maybe I was at 4 a.m. But the more I played it, the more I like it, and it is fun with a lot of people, and it's just an interesting game. It's nothing like it that I've seen anyway. And that's my number 7, Mission Red Planet.
That's the actually purchased this one secondhand a little while ago. I think possibly the original version, but I haven't played it yet. Okay. So it's on my to be played list, and I'm excited for it.
Nice. Nice. You'll like it.
Mm-hmm. Now, my number 7 is Chinatown. Chinatown was published in 1999 by Z-Man Games, and it's created by Karsten Hartwig. And this one, I've played it Probably the first time was like a year or two ago, and I was so impressed with it. And like, there's other games that have similar scoring mechanism that made me kind of decide to buy this one again, just because it was so neat. But and with this one, what will happen is you'll have some cards, and they get handed out to you, and you get, is it 7 cards, and you look at them and you keep 5, and the other 2 go back in the deck. And then on these cards, there's just going to be a number, anywhere from 1 to 80 something or 90 something, which is going to show up on the board. Now, on the board, you have these different districts or buildings. So 1 to 30 something will be kind of in one, and 30 something to 40 is going to be in another, or so on. And you're trying to create clusters. So have numbers that are sharing, like, a side. And what will happen after that is, like, so you'll collect these buildings, you decide which ones you want, and you'll kind of keep trying to create the clusters of these land deeds, basically. Then you're going to be pulling out of a bag these different tiles that are business tiles, and it could be like a flower shop, and it'll say like a flower shop can go as big as 4 tiles, or a restaurant that'll go as big as 6 tiles, or a Photoshop, which is 2 tiles, or different things like that. So you kind of draw the different number of tile as well, and then you negotiate. So maybe I have 28 and 29, which are side by side, and 25, which is above my 28, but which gives me like a 3. But I'm trying to create a restaurant there, so I want a bigger cluster. And I noticed that you have 26, which would kind of fit great into this. I'd be like, okay, I noticed that you would like the 18 since you have the 17. How about if you give me this one for that one? I was like, what? No, you get too big of a deal, and I'll just get a 2. So, okay, let me sweeten the deal with some businesses then. I can give you a flower shop. And they're like, what? No, maybe so. Okay, let me add some money. Like, anything goes really in this negotiation. And this game is almost like just pure negotiation, because you're trying to get the deed to these different buildings, and so that you can put the businesses on it. And then after each round, you score the business. So if it's 1 tile for the business, you score so much. 2 tiles, so much. 3s, and so on. But if it is a complete business, so let's say it scores 3 tiles, it scores so much, but it's a complete business, now it increases the value of what that 3 tile is worth. Now, of course, if you're able to complete a restaurant that has 6 tiles, and it's 6 tiles big and complete it, then you get a lot of money for that. And then you kind of collect the money and you keep that face down. Then at the end of the game, once you've done all the different rounds, whoever's collected the most money is the winner. So you don't want to negotiate too much money out, because it is your points at the end. But it is such a neat one that's just like a pure negotiation game. And that's my number 7, Chinatown.
Yeah, that's an awesome one. Good choice. My number 6 is Petrichor, made in 2018 by David Cherkop. Now this one comes off as this floofy little rain cloud game that is so beautiful and so simple and minimalistic, with you're playing as a rain cloud, and you have these beautiful little glass beads that are raindrops. Well, it is cutthroat, because you have this grid of cards, or tiles, I guess, that will change up every game. And depending like what kind of expansions you have, there's like endless amount of tiles, so you can have a new game literally every game. And what you're doing is you have a hand of weather cards, and it's sun, frost, rain, and wind. And so you will play a card. Your first round, you can play 1 card, and then you get to do that action. The second round, you have to play 2 in order to do the action. But what the actions will do is you can place a little raindrop in a cloud and put it on any tile, and then, or you can move a cloud, which is like with wind, it moves the cloud. You can, if once a cloud gets filled with, I think it's 5 raindrops, it becomes a rain cloud. And then once there's, I can't remember the amount, it'll spill over onto the tile. And each tile has different scoring, like mechanisms that, depending how many are on there, or if sometimes you don't even want to be the most on there, you want to be the second most on there. But then there's another one, I think it's the snow, like the sleet one, lets you move other people's raindrops. So again, another tactical game. You can't have a master plan. You have to see how people are moving your stuff around. You don't want to control too much because then everyone's going to be after you. So you have to kind of, be a little bit clever about placing things around so that you're not just obviously trying to take over certain tiles. You just kind of, I'll just kind of meet you halfway and we'll match each other and then have some cards in your hand where you can add more to the one tile. And the only time that they'll score though is if there's a harvest. And it's neat because at the end of your turn, you always have to vote, and you vote on the weather, and it has to be the card you chose or one that is clockwise to it after. And then there's like a majority of that as well at the scoring. But the one option you can do is you can change the harvest dice that are in the middle, and you can bring it down one each time you vote. And once it's down to like the 0 harvest, then that at the end of that round, everything will score. So that's another tricky part, is you can do all you want and have all your little eggs in all your little raindrops perfectly set, and there's no scoring that round, and then everything gets messed up the next round. But it's still fun and it's really neat, and that's my number 6, Petrichor.
Neat. My number 6 is Bunny Kingdom, which was published in 2017. It's created by Richard Garfield, and it was published by Yellow. Now, I played this one for the first time at FallCon. It was one that I heard of all the time, so I was interested in playing it. And it's another one that reminds me a lot of Chinatown, just because the scoring mechanism is so similar. You have this big grid that is the map, and you're going to be scoring on your clusters that you create every round, just very much like Chinatown, except with this one is the big difference is how you acquire these. And this one is card drafting. So you're going to have some cards in your hand, and they're either going to have a grid combination. So let's say it's B7. So then you would go to the B7 location, and that's the square that you would acquire if you keep that card. And I believe you pull 2 cards each round, and then they pass on to the next player, and then you look at the next one and pull 2 more cards, and so on. So you can acquire zone cards that way. You get power over that one location. Now there's also towns or castles that you can draw from that as well, which is going to allow you to put a castle on a different location that you already have control over. And there's also resources card that you're going to get, which you can add resources to the different clusters that you're creating. Now, the way that you score, and I didn't understand that the first time I played quite correctly, but you will score each cluster for the different type of resources in that cluster, multiplied by the total towers of each castle you have in that cluster as well. So if there's 2 different type of resources and you have 3 towers in that whole cluster, then you're going to get 6 points for it. Now, when I first played this, I thought it was just any resources. I didn't realize they had to be different resources. So I was just like acquiring make my cluster as big as possible. And like it had 7 stones here, so it's going to be amazing. But it wasn't, because each stone actually only counted as 1. So I really messed myself up, and I never did catch up. I was behind over 100 points by the end of the game. But it was really neat because, I was passing on a lot of resources. I wasn't worrying about them, so I was just passing them on when we were drafting. Same with some of the castle that was coming along. So next time I play, I'm sure I'm going to do a much better. But even though I was playing so wrong and I lost so badly, I could tell this is a really neat, interesting game. And each area that you control, you would put one of your little colored bunny on there that would kind of show you're owning that area. And then you have like these, I can't remember if the castles were 3D or if that's part of like a deluxe version or not, but it was a really neat game. So I really enjoyed that.
I think that's with the base
6,
game.
Bunny Kingdom.
Yeah, that's such a good one. That's actually my number 5, Bunny Kingdom. I enjoy it as well. It's the card drafting it is what I love about it. Not just the whole fact of the area control, but the drafting of cards, knowing what you're passing to the other player. So it's such a good game. Yeah, I love it. I've only played it twice, I think. Maybe twice, and it left a big impression on me. But yeah, that's my number 5, Bunny Kingdom.
Well, obviously, I agree with your Bunny Kingdom pick. Now, in my number 5 position, I have Viral. Viral was published in 2017. It was created by published by Arcane Wonder, and it was created by Gil Dori and Antonio Sousa. And this is a game that made me realize, oh, maybe I do like area control. It is such a neat game. I had first heard of it with the brothers Murph were talking about it, and I'm like, okay, that kind of looks interesting. And because I work in pharmacy, I like medical theme type things like that anyways. So, and this one, you open the board, and it's the body, and you have all the major organs, and each player plays as a microbe. And you're trying to be the disease that's going to affect the most of the body. So if you kind of go into the lungs, and then other microbes go into the lungs, and then you're trying to have like the most infection there than the other microbes, and then you would get to score the lungs area, right? And then there's the kidneys, and then all the other body parts as well, the brain, the heart, and so on. And then you can move throughout the body, but you got to move through the vein system. So, and you know, blood flows in a certain way, so you have to kind of follow the flow of how it goes, and then to kind of go around the body as well. It's so clever, and the board, I'm so impressed with how well this game kind of indicates the flow of the game on the board. It's really well depicted. It's like, okay, first you're going to do this, then you moved up, okay, now you're doing this, and then now you're doing this, and it's such a neat game. It looks super cute. The theme is just hilarious. And last few times I've played, I won, so that always helps. So that's my number 5, Viral.
I forgot all about this one. I used to play this at our cafe back when it was open at Bower Ponds. We played it a few times. It's so unique. You don't ever see that theme, and it's really neat, though. Yeah, good choice. My number 4 is Belfort, made in 2011 by J. Cormier. Now, this one is a really cool one because it's a worker placement and an area control. So you have all these. Now, I get the elves, gnomes, and dwarves mixed up. I think you start with elves, and then those are like these round workers, and then you have a couple square ones, which I think are dwarves. I can't remember which is which. And then you can also purchase these gnomes. I might be confusing the 3, but those are all that's in the game. And so what you're doing is the ones you have with you are your workers, and you'll get to place them. And you can place them out in various spots. You can place them to get resources, to get gold. You can use one to like steal first player order. You can use them to go on the actual game board, which will give you different things. You get to go to these guilds, and you'll have to pay $1 to go there, but then you'll get different things. There's 4 different cards in each game, like 4 different guilds, so they change up from game to game. And so what you're doing is, after you've placed all your workers, then in turn order you get to do all your things, and you grab your stuff and collect your stuff. But then you can build some of your buildings. So these are cards that are in your hand. And what the buildings do is they will usually give you like another spot for one of your workers to go eventually. But they also will put out a building. So you have these little buildings that you'll put out on the board, and there's all different kinds. And this board is like a circle, kind of. And so you have these sections, they're kind of like pie sections, and you want to control each of those, because when you score, I think it's at the end of every third round, you get to score the majority of all these. So you can control all different types of things. I can't even remember, there's about 7 different types of buildings, like walls and libraries and all kinds of things. But the more that you have in one area, obviously, the more you'll control. Now, the unique thing is that after the first round, you might not want to control that much, because as soon as you have a lot of majority and your points go up, then you have to pay more taxes. So if you're way far ahead of everyone, you might have to pay like $6 in taxes, whereas the people behind you might only have to pay $2. So, and the money is really tight. So you kind of have to figure out, okay, well, maybe I'm not going to, try to get majority too much. But then you want to build the buildings because they give you more worker placement options. And they're usually cheaper and better than the ones that are out there. Some of these buildings also require a gnome. So you have to have bought one of them to use your building. So it's really a unique little area control game that we played with a friend a couple of years ago. And then Cherry found this one at Gobfest. This guy was selling it, and he didn't want to sell it. I don't know why he did, but he did. And so she got it, and it's so neat. But yeah, that's my number 4, Belfort.
I'm really excited for this one because I've purchased that one at FallCon at the auction.
Oh, you'll like it.
I haven't played it yet, but I was like, and then I saw it set up on the table in the game area, and it looks so good. And I was like, okay, I'm really pleased with this. So, but yeah. All right, now is your number 4.
And it's not, like, doesn't feel cutthroat, but it's a little bit. Like, it's not,
okay.
I don't know, it's just so neat. You'll like it. Yeah.
It sounds great, yeah. Okay, great. So my number 4 is Civilization: A New Dawn. And this one was published in 2017 by Fantasy Flight, and it's the James Niffen was the designer. Now, this one is cool. Like, and you set up your map, and then I'm a fan of Civilization type games, but I tend to buy them more than I play them. And me and Lee ended up playing this one, and it was so neat. So you kind of set up the map, and you have these couple of, like, locations that are going to be your towns. And you're trying to develop and build things around the town. And once you have something built all the way around your city or your town or whatever, then it kind of upgrades the city. And now you can, when you kind of, I guess, seek out or kind of adventure out, you can actually leave from that location so you can reach further on the turns that you have. What's really interesting as well is the way that the action mechanism works. So you have this kind of, this timeline where you have the cards kind of onto it. So when you activate the card, the one that's furthest right is the most powerful card, and you can build with this one on the more terrains and that sort of stuff. And then when you've activated that, it resets, moves everything down, and you have like the different kind of technology you can activate. And you can also upgrade these technologies where the card will go to like the next level. So now it's a higher one, but you'll kind of activate it, and then it sends it all the way to the left, and everything shifts up. Which is it Arc Nova that has the kind of type of mechanism as well? I think somebody had commented.
Yeah, they took it from that. Yeah, it's really cool.
It is neat. It is neat. And you got like the whole look of the board, the whole way that you kind of spread out and build around you and build your civilization and upgrade your technologies, and then the action selection. It is such a neat game. And for a civilization game, this one probably plays in, I think it was like an hour or under. So, which is quick for a civilization game, and it was really neat. So that's my number 4, Civilization: A New Dawn.
Awesome. I had this game at one point and never played it, so I culled it, but now I wish I would have played it at least once before. I just never would get out to the table. I probably had done the same thing you do, started buying them and then just never played them, but I don't know why I never played that one. But
this one I bought at a yard sale. It was new and shrank.
Yeah,
Nobody
I think I bought mine used.
Yeah. No, it was great.
Awesome. So that was your number 4.
My number 4, yeah.
So my number 3 is a crossover, and this is Chinatown. And I think you had said it already, made in 1999 by Karsten Hartwig.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love this one. This is like one of the only negotiating games that I like. I don't typically like them. I mean, maybe I haven't played enough or played any other really good ones, but this one is so fun. It's fun to try and, swindle people, but try to make them feel like they're getting something really good. Because I know we would play... I think I've only really played this... No, I did play it at the cafe with some gamers, but I play it with my family a lot. And my son's always, skeptical. He's like, I feel like you're not giving me a good deal here. Like, no, it's a great deal. You're going to get this and all this. And he's like... And then he always ends up winning. So, I mean, obviously I'm giving him a good deal. But it's just so fun and such a neat area control. And that's my number 3, Chinatown.
Wonderful. That is a good game. My number 3 reminds me of Chinatown, and that's Foundation of Rome. And it was published in 2022, created by Emerson Masucci, and it's published by Arcane Wonders. Now, this one has a lot of things that goes against it. It is expensive. This game retails like $300. And it's huge and takes up a lot of space on a Calyx shelf. It'll take a whole cubby just for itself. But it is a neat game. This is honestly, for what it is and how it looks, it was fairly easy to pick up to play. And it's not one that kind of takes a long, long time to play, around 45 minutes to an hour maybe.
Yeah.
And it does remind me of the Chinatown, because you have this board that we're all playing on, and then you have this board that's all of your buildings, and it's all 3D, and you have these buildings. And it's neat, because you'll be, okay, well, I've acquired this, so you kind of put the things, and once you start acquiring clusters, you can upgrade what's on the main board with buildings that are on your own board. And you'll take the building up and it's like, okay, I've got this now. And where the space is revealed, it shows you what that building does. Maybe it'll give you population. Maybe it'll give you an income. Or maybe it's going to score depending on what's around and surrounding it. And it is kind of really neat and interesting that way. So you're going to want to start by creating as much income as you can so that you have money. Because each round, you're going to have these different locations on the map that are available to purchase. Now, they range, this is cheapest to the most expensive, but then as you purchase one, then they shift, new one comes out, and so on. So this is how you acquire the area. And once you start acquiring the area, you can start putting your buildings in there and then start upgrading the buildings so that you can get more income, get more population, or kind of score. And I had one where it's like, hey, they had built so much around me, but then I was like, hey, well, I'm going to build here, and I'm going to put this building, which scores for every population building around me, and you've got a big population one, and you've got a big population one, so this was giving me tons of points. And it was really neat. I do not own this game. I don't know if I will ever pull the trigger on a $300 game. That's, you know what, and then having that debate is a reason why I bought Chinatown. I was like, I don't know if I can do this, so I bought Chinatown instead because it kind of scratches that same itch as far as board game goes. And Bunny Kingdom, I think, would as well, so having those two instead, will I ever own it? Maybe. I won't buy it brand new, that's for sure, just because, I don't know. That's a hefty price tag. But Christmas is coming up, so if anybody wants to buy me a Christmas gift of around $300, if you need to own, but yeah, if you have limited space in your game shelf, this is a massive one that would take up a lot of it. And if you have a limited budget for your game collection, this is going to eat a lot of that budget as well. So that's my iffy thing, but it's still my number 3, right? So it's a great game. And that's, my number 3, Foundations of Rome.
Yeah, I wonder if they will make just like a retail version of it with just like cardboard or something, because I'm sure they would sell that. Like it would do well. Yeah, I had this one on my list, and then I went back through BGB, and it didn't list it as area control, which I'm like, what? Why is it not listing that? So I took it off, but it was on there really high up as well. But I'm glad you put it on because it's such a good game.
Yeah.
So that was your number 3. My
That's
number
right.
2 is Lords of Vegas, made in 2020 by James Ernest and Mike Selinker. This one is a unique one as well. You are all building casinos with dice, and the dice are the placement that you're using to like take a casino, because you will have these dice at the beginning, and then you will place a chip there, like a for your plot, your lot, or whatever. And you'll draw a card, and it'll decide where this plot is going. So you'll place one there, and then you have to pay a certain amount to put your pips on. And then what you're trying to do is control, like, make your casinos bigger. So you could do all kinds of things. You can reorganize or remodel them. Like if somebody else is touching yours, you can take over theirs. You have to pay all this money, and then you get to re-roll all the dice, because each dice will go in one spot, and that counts as like one part of your casino. So if I had like a bunch together, and then say Melanie had a couple next to me, I could pay for all the pips that I'm rolling. So like it could be a lot. I could have to pay like 20. I think they consider millions. I roll them all, and then I hope that they will be like, mine will be higher than hers, because if mine are higher, then I will control the casino. So it's really unique. You can also go to other people's casinos and just gamble. So you basically just roll these dice, 2 dice, and you hope to get certain numbers. And you'll bet some money. So say I bet like 10 million or whatever. I'll either lose it or I could double it. So, and that person has to pay it to you. So it can be a little bit cutthroat, but it's neat. And then you can also, you'll have a casino and someone else has one next to you, and then you can change the color of yours so that it's all one big one, and then you control theirs. So there's a lot of tactical decisions in this game, and it's so interesting. It's not the prettiest looking game, and the funny thing is they did a new Kickstarter about 2 years ago, and everyone thought they were going to remake this and make it look really nice, but they just added on an expansion and like this big box of like poker chips, but they didn't change anything about the base game. So it's, I don't know, people weren't too happy about it, but there was already one expansion, but this one added another one with some like player powers and things like that. I haven't got that. I do have the first expansion, but and I just added my own poker chips to it because it did just come with paper money. But of course, I mean, you're in a casino, you need to play with poker chips, right? But it's so unique and it's fun. It's kind of hard to find now. Even after they did the Kickstarter, they didn't reprint a whole bunch of the base games. So it's, yeah, a tricky one to find, but it's fun. And it's a good one. I play it with the family and with gamers, and we all kind of like it. There is some luck involved in there as well, obviously, but depending on which cards you draw, because you just pull off the top, and whatever casino you pull off gets paid out, and then you can decide what to do after that. And the way you score points is neat too, because whoever has the most majority gets like a big type of points. But how you move up the track is the track kind of starts at like 1, and then goes 2, 3, and then it'll go, you have to have 2 to move to the next one, and then as you get further up you need like 4, and then you need 5 to jump to the next level. And if you only get like 3 points, you can't even get to the next. You can't even move from like 10 to 11. It's interesting that way. Whereas it's kind of gives you a catch-up mechanism too, because then these other people who just need like 1s to move up, they're fine. But it's fun, and I haven't played it in so long, but I really want to get this one to the table again. And that's my number 2, Lords of Vegas.
Yeah, that one sounds really neat. I've never played it. It's one that you kind of see around and you hear such great things about. So that's definitely on my to play list, which is very long. Now my number two and my number one, I was like, which one do I actually like best? And then it's kind of like almost a toss off here. But my number two is Memoir 44. It was published in 2004. It was created by Richard Borg, and it's published by Days of Wonders. This is such a neat game, which is funny because I'm not like particularly attracted by army type games or military games per se, but this one plays like it'll replay the Battle of Normandy, and you'll have the map and you set it up, and then you'll kind of select the scenario you want to play and says, okay, so the Allies were located here and here and here and here, and the Germans were there and there and there, and you kind of reset up the troops the way that it was, and you read the story. This is what was happening, and these are the people that were in play, and this was what the mission was, and this is what happened. And then you replay this mission to try and succeed in your mission. Now you have like certain goals, and if you do certain things, you'll acquire so many medals, and you need so many to win. And the board is divided into 3 sections. So you have the middle section, and then the right and the left. And you'll have cards that you'll be playing and drawing from. And it's like, okay, you can move your infantry that's on the left side. It's like, oh, okay, but you can move up to 3 of them. It's like, great. I was really hoping to move the right side to kind of look if there's a... And you gotta, like, in that time, it wasn't as easy to kind of pass on the information as to what the missions were and then kind of how the troops should be moving and that sort of stuff, right? So sometimes you don't have the card, but it's kind of thematic in that way, right? Maybe you weren't able to get the point across it to get the optimal move. And then you have tanks, so you have different things that you can move, and then you'll have, like you kind of move at a location, you'll roll the dice to see how the battle goes when you're like on top of another one, and depending on what you have for the terrain, maybe you're in the trees and it's actually going to provide some cover so you can kind of roll an extra defense roll or whatever it is. It is neat. So neat. And this one plays like in 30 minutes. 30, 45 minutes, like it plays quick and it looks amazing. And I had joined a Facebook page for Memoir 44, and somebody on there says, let me send you some stuff. And he had made a bunch of like handmade 3D tiles, like in plaster or something, that like, so the bridges, and he's gonna have all these, he must have had them old, I don't know, because you can see all the brick details on it. And then like, so I have like these 3D bridges I can put instead of just a cardboard piece. And then you play, and then the game looks amazing, and the gameplay is so fun, and I love it. And that's my number 2, Memoir 44.
Awesome. Yeah, you talk about this game quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, my number 1, like I was saying at the beginning, it just totally surprised me that this went down to my number 1. It's not like what you would think of as like a mean area control game, but it is area control, and that is it's Carcassonne. This was made in 2000 by Klaus Jürgen Reed, and this is like one of the big 3 games. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but the big 3 games are Carcassonne, Catan, and Ticket to Ride. So these were like the big 3 starter games they talk about. And I did get this, was probably one of my first games after Catan that I got, and I think I ended up getting almost all the expansions, not all because there's so many, but all the main ones anyway. And then I do have another version called Hunters and Gatherers, and I've played it kind of throughout the years and then keep coming back to it, keep coming back to it, and then I got the big map where you can play. You play on this map and you start at certain areas, and I just love it. I don't have anyone that loves it around me. None of actually I haven't tried it with Ashley, but Cherry doesn't love it, and my family doesn't totally love it, but I still make them play it because I love it, and you can play it solo, but it's so much better as a multiplayer game. I actually do have a couple of friends that one's a new gamer, and he really loves this game, so I can play it with them now that I think about it because they really like it. But yeah, I was surprised that this beat out all these games. But on Pubnico, you have to put they put these games head to head, and you're like, okay, yeah, that one, and
Yeah.
I was surprised when the list popped up, and I'm like, what? Number one? Really? But that's how it is, and when I look at it, like if I were to, get to choose any of these games. I mean, it can change from day to day, right?
Yeah.
And who your crowd is, but that one I would play anytime. And that's my number one, Carcassonne.
It is a neat game. It was one that I got early on, and I hadn't, it's funny, I had gotten some games and had not played any for a little while, so they were all kind of sitting there waiting to be played, and Carcassonne was one of them. And then we played it, okay, this is neat. I know my friend Bree and Dan are huge Carcassonne fan, and then they'll play it with every expansion and have an evening and three tables set up, and then it's like this massive game. Yeah, that's neat.
I do that too. I try to play with all my expansions, and then I just have to remember all the rules in them. But it's so neat because there's so many different mechanisms then that you get to play. And I think one thing that the reason I do love this is because I'm a big puzzler. I love doing puzzles. And so I will usually alternate my free solo time with a solo game or building a puzzle. And so this really gives me the puzzle feeling in a game. So it's like the best of both worlds for me because I love matching those and making them fit perfect. And when you can stick that one piece in the middle of everything and it just fits, like how much satisfaction is that? Like total satisfaction. I just love it. But yeah. So what is your number one?
Okay, my number one, and I think my number one beat Memoir 44 probably because I've played it more recently, and a few times more recently than I did Memoir, and this is Bloodrage. It was published in 2015. It's created by Eric M. Lang, and it was a CMON game, and it's just such a neat game. And I gotta say, I love the tutorial they have on Diced, and it makes playing the game, teaching the game so easy. And it's not like, okay, well, let me go through all the rules. It's like it gives you the rules as you play, so you just get playing right away. So that's so cool. And then, like, you're drafting cards in the beginning, and you have your clan, and you're, like, these Vikings, and Valhalla's upon us, so the world is getting destroyed. But you're going down fighting, and you get honor in that. So you're trying to kind of, and you're, like, kind of be, okay, like, using your cards, like, okay, well, you can send your chief over at this location, and then because that's going to give you points because you have these gold points. It's like, okay, well, you're going to gain these points if you are in control of these areas, so you're going to try to send some of your things there. You can recruit these monsters, and then they all have these minis that you play on the board, and it looks great. The gameplay is so neat. It's area control, right? And then I was like, the first time I played it, I was like, don't care for your, but oh, no, I love this one. It is neat. And then I played it with my brother the first time, and then I bought my own copy earlier this summer, and then I've played it a few more times, and every time I just love it. So that's my number one, Bloodrage.
Awesome. Yeah, you do love this game. I think I've only played this once at the cafe with 3 people. What is the best player count for this game?
You know what? I do enjoy it at any count. Like, I've played it 4, I've played it, 4 a few times, I've played it 2 a few times, and I think we've played it 3.
Oh, really?
Like, it's just kind of when you're playing 2, is some of the locations are blocked off, you don't play with them, which can make some of your goals obsolete. It's like, okay, great, if you own green, well, green's not even there. Never mind, so, but it just kind of makes the map a little bit tighter, but it's still neat.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then what was the app you said you use? It's called Diced?
Dized. D-I-Z-E-D. Yeah, Dizzedd.
I'm gonna have to
A lot
try
of the
that.
tiny epics are on there. Bloodrage is on there. There's a few games that are on there, and then there's a few games that kind of gets added every once in a while. But like these tutorials are so amazing, so I completely understand why they're just not all on there, because they put a lot of work into it. It's like you're going through this video tutorial that kind of keeps track, says, okay, who are you? Is like, okay, what are you doing? Is I'm do this. Which card did you select? I selected this card. Okay, you're gonna move this and this and this, and it walks you through the whole thing. It's amazing. I really, really like it.
Awesome. Yeah. I want to try that. And you know what else I always forget to try is that Melodice, which is you type in a game and it gives you the music. Like I really want to try that too. Yeah. For Halloween, have the spooky music along with your Arkham Warrior. That'd be great. Yeah. No, that would be awesome. There was one game I want to mention that is coming. It's not out yet, but it's an area control that I'm actually looking forward to, and it's called The Wolves. Now, this one, you are a pack of wolves, and you're literally, like, thematically trying to control areas, because just like a pack of wolves would do. They usually have a large area, and, they'll have some wolves that will monitor the outsides, and if you come across, it's a fight. So I don't know the whole mechanics of the game, but I do know it's area control, and it looks really cool. So I'm looking forward to that one coming. Wonderful. I think Ashley's ordered it, or it's coming for her, pre-ordered or something. But
nice.
Yeah.
So that was it for our top 9 area control game, which is a strategy that we don't think we like, but actually love. Next episode we're going to be doing is our top 9 Reiner Knizia game, who is such an amazing game designer. I just adore him. He does so many different games that just feel so different. It's not like, you can tell this has a Reiner Knizia feel. You can't tell. There's just so many of them. And then you'll see which one made our top 9 list here next week. Now, before we kind of wrap everything up here, Carla, if we want to find you, where do we go?
You can find me on Instagram at Boardgame Specialist, all one word. And I'm on Facebook. I have a page called Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. What about you?
I am also on Facebook as Mal's and Friends Board Game Room. On YouTube, my YouTube channel is Mal's Board Game Room. And on Instagram, it's Mal's_boardgame_room. All right, so that is it for this week. Tune in next week to see our top 9 Reiner Knizia games. So thank you for listening. Bye, everybody.
Bye.